The reception hall fell silent the moment Princess Veyra's voice cut through the celebration like a blade. Her crimson eyes blazed as she pointed one clawed finger at the man standing beside Queen Aria Morgan. The assembled diplomats froze, glasses of champagne halfway to their lips as the Kalith princess's words echoed off the vaulted ceiling. That is not the human I agreed to marry. Connor Hayes, or the man everyone believed was Connor Hayes, stood perfectly still. His dress uniform was immaculate, his posture military straight, but something flickered across his face. Not fear, something deeper. Something that looked like shame. Queen Aria stepped forward, her expression calm despite the sudden tension crackling through the air. She was a small woman compared to the towering Kalith princess, but her presence commanded the room. Princess Veyra, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we should speak privately. Veyra's scales shimmered with bioluminescent fury, patterns of orange and violet racing across her skin. The Kalith were a proud species, warriors who had conquered half their galaxy before choosing diplomacy over endless war. They valued honor above all else, and right now every instinct in Veyra's body screamed that she had been deceived. There is no misunderstanding, Veyra said, her voice dropping to a dangerous growl. I have studied the transmission recordings for months. I memorized every detail of Connor Hayes' face, his voice, his mannerisms. That man shares his appearance, but he is not the same. His eyes are different. The way he holds himself, even the rhythm of his breathing. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Kalith had senses far beyond human capability. If Princess Veyra said this man was not Connor Hayes, she was probably right. The man in question finally spoke, his voice steady but weighted with emotion. Your Highness is correct. The room erupted. Diplomats shouted questions. Kalith guards reached for their weapons. But Queen Aria raised one hand, and somehow, impossibly, silence returned. Everyone out, the Queen said quietly. Now! It took 10 minutes to clear the hall. The Kalith guards wanted to stay, but Veyra dismissed them with a sharp gesture. When the doors finally sealed, only 4 people remained. Queen Aria, Princess Veyra, the man who was not Connor Hayes, and Admiral Kate Russo, Earth's chief military strategist. Veyra's voice was ice. Explain, quickly, before I call my father's fleet and tell them this alliance is built on lies. Queen Aria met her gaze without flinching. 6 months ago, Connor Hayes was traveling to a diplomatic conference on Europa Station. There was an accident. Coolant leak in the shuttle's engine. He and 3 other crew members died instantly. The words landed like physical blows. Veyra's scales shifted to deep purple, the Kalith color of shock. He's dead? Yes, Aria said softly. And we couldn't tell you? Couldn't? Veyra's fury reignited. You mean wouldn't. You lied to my people. You lied to me. Admiral Russo stepped forward, her weathered face grave. Your father gave us an ultimatum 2 years ago, Princess. Either humanity provided a suitable candidate for marriage alliance within 18 months, or the Kalith Empire would consider Earth's continued expansion into contested systems an act of war. Connor Hayes volunteered. He spent a year in cultural training, learning your language, your customs, your history. He was perfect for the role. And when he died, Veyra demanded, we had 3 choices, Queen Aria said. Tell you the truth, and almost certainly trigger a war Earth couldn't win. Provide a different candidate and risk insulting your family's honor by breaking a specific agreement. Or... She gestured to the man standing in silent witness. Or find someone who could become Connor Hayes. Veyra turned her burning gaze on him. Who are you? The man straightened, and for the first time since the confrontation began, he looked directly into Veyra's eyes. My name is Ethan Hayes. Connor was my twin brother. The silence stretched like a physical thing. Veyra's mind raced, processing implications and betrayals and the cold political calculus that had led to this moment. Twins, not just any substitute, but someone who shared Connor's face, his DNA, his bloodline. You thought I wouldn't notice, Veyra said, her voice dangerously soft. No, Ethan replied. We knew you probably would. Kalith's senses are too sharp. But we hoped that by the time you discovered the truth, you might understand why we made this choice. Understand. Veyra's laugh was bitter. You want me to understand deception, lies, the violation of every agreement my father made with your world? I want you to understand sacrifice, Ethan said, and now his voice carried an edge of steel. Connor didn't just volunteer for this marriage because Earth needed him. He believed in what it represented, peace between our peoples, an end to the territorial conflicts that have cost thousands of lives on both sides. He studied your culture because he genuinely wanted to honor it. He learned to speak Kalithian without a translator because he wanted to hear your voice as you actually spoke, not filtered through machines. Ethan pulled a small data chip from his pocket and held it out. These are his journals, every entry from the day he volunteered until the day he died. He was excited to meet you, Princess. He thought you might actually understand each other. Veyra stared at the chip, but didn't take it. And you? Why did you agree to this charade? Because Connor was my brother, Ethan said simply. Because we served together in the Defense Corps. Because when that shuttle exploded, I was supposed to be on it too. I traded shifts with him that day because I wanted to attend a friend's wedding. He died in my place. His voice cracked just slightly. I carry that every day, Princess. Every single day. And when Queen Aria came to me and explained the situation, when she told me that my brother's death might trigger a war that would kill millions more, I saw a chance to give his sacrifice meaning, to finish what he started. Veyra's scales flickered through several colors: purple shock, orange anger, and then something else, deep blue, the Kalith color of grief. You studied his journals, she said slowly. Every word. For 6 months, I lived as Connor. I learned everything he learned. I memorized the same cultural texts. I practiced the same phrases. Not to deceive you, Princess, but to honor him, to make sure his dream of peace didn't die with him. But you are not him. No, Ethan agreed. I'm not. I'm a soldier who lost his brother. A man who carries guilt like a second skin. I don't have Connor's gift for diplomacy or his easy charm. I'm harder, more direct. But I swear to you, on my brother's memory, that I would have honored this marriage alliance with everything I have. Not out of duty, but because Connor believed in it, and I believe in him. Veyra was silent for a long moment. In Kalith culture, there was a concept called Thelmara, soul debt to the fallen. When a warrior died saving another, the survivor carried an obligation to live a life worthy of that sacrifice. To honor the dead through action, not just words. She had dismissed humans as too soft, too emotional, too quick to compromise their principles for convenience. But this was Thelmara in its purest form. This was a warrior's grief transformed into purpose. Your queen is clever, Veyra said finally. She knew that if you told me the truth immediately, I would see only deception. But if I discovered it myself, if I forced the confession, I might actually listen to your reasons. Queen Aria's slight smile confirmed it. I hoped you would see the intent behind the action, yes. Intent does not erase dishonor, Veyra said, but her voice had lost its sharp edge. My father will not be so understanding. Then we tell him the truth, Ethan said. No more deception. If Emperor Xarok decides this violation of protocol is worth starting a war over, then I'll face that consequence. But I won't let my brother's dream die because I was too afraid to be honest. Admiral Russo tensed. Ethan, that's not... No, Queen Aria interrupted gently. He's right. We've already made one choice based on fear. We can't build a real alliance on that foundation. She looked at Veyra. Princess, you have every right to expose this to your father. We won't stop you. But I'm asking you to consider what Connor saw in this alliance, what he believed was possible. Veyra's claws tapped against her thigh, a nervous gesture she'd never quite managed to eliminate. Her mind churned with conflicting loyalties. Her father's honor, her own dignity. And beneath it all, a growing respect for the humans standing before her, raw with grief and determination. Before she could respond, Admiral Russo's communicator chirped urgently. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. Your Majesty, we have a problem. Sensors are detecting a Kalith battle fleet dropping out of hyperspace. 47 ships. They're taking formation around Earth. Veyra's scales flashed white. Surprise. That's impossible. My father's fleet was 3 systems away. Queen Aria's expression hardened. Unless he was already suspicious. Unless he anticipated problems and positioned his forces for a rapid response. Another chirp. Russo listened to her earpiece, her expression growing grimmer. We're being hailed. It's Emperor Xarok himself. He says he detected an emergency signal from Princess Veyra's biosensor and demands an immediate explanation. Veyra's hand went to the small device embedded in her collar. In her moment of fury and shock, her elevated stress levels had triggered an automatic distress beacon. Her father's fleet must have been monitoring her constantly, waiting for any sign of trouble. How long until he reaches orbit? Queen Aria asked. He's already here, Russo said quietly. His flagship just appeared on sensors. He's requesting immediate transport to the surface. If we refuse, he's authorized to treat it as a hostile act. Ethan moved instinctively toward Veyra, a protective gesture that surprised them both. This is my fault. I'll face him. You'll die, Veyra said flatly. My father doesn't tolerate deception. If I tell him the truth about what happened here, he'll consider it a blood insult. He'll demand your execution as recompense. Then I'll die, Ethan said simply. Better me than millions in a war. Veyra stared at him. This human who wore his brother's face and carried his brother's burden. In that moment, she made a decision that would define the rest of her life. No, she said. You won't. She turned to Queen Aria. Bring my father here. To this room. Let him see what I have seen. Princess, Admiral Russo began. I am the daughter of Emperor Xarok, Veyra said, her voice ringing with authority. I have spent my entire life learning to navigate Kalith honor and politics. I know my father better than anyone in this room. Trust me. 20 minutes later, Emperor Xarok strode into the reception hall with the force of a natural disaster. He was massive even by Kalith standards, nearly 8 feet tall, his scales a deep crimson that spoke of countless battles. His guard flanked him, elite warriors who could tear through a platoon of soldiers in seconds. His eyes locked on Veyra. Daughter, your biosensor indicated extreme distress. Explain. Veyra stood tall, her own scales rippling with complex patterns. In Kalith body language, she was broadcasting calm resolve. Father, I discovered something today that shocked me, something that made me question everything about this alliance. Xarok's gaze shifted to Ethan, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. This is Connor Hayes, the human you were to marry. No, Veyra said clearly, he is not. The Kalith guards tensed. Queen Aria's security detail mirrored them. 47 warships hung in orbit above Earth, weapons charged and targeting solutions locked. The entire fate of 2 civilizations balanced on what happened in the next few minutes. Explain, Xarok commanded, his voice like grinding stone. So Veyra did. She told him everything. Connor's death, the impossible choice Earth faced, Ethan's sacrifice. She spoke with the precision of a military report but couldn't quite hide the emotion bleeding through her words. When she finished, the silence was absolute. Emperor Xarok looked at Ethan with an expression impossible to read. You pretended to be your dead brother to avoid starting a war. Yes, Your Majesty, you deceived my daughter. You violated the terms of our agreement. You treated the honor of the Kalith Empire as a convenience to be manipulated when it suited your purposes. Ethan met his gaze steadily. Yes, sir. All of that is true. And you stand here now, knowing I could kill you where you stand, and you don't beg for mercy or make excuses. There are no excuses for what we did, Ethan said. We made a choice based on fear and desperation. It was the wrong choice. If my death satisfies honor and prevents further conflict, then I accept that price. Xarok studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to Veyra. And you, daughter, what do you say? Veyra took a breath. Everything depended on this. Father, I say that this human embodies Thelmara more purely than many Kalith warriors I have known. His brother died in his place. He carries that debt every day, and when he saw a chance to give that death meaning, to honor his brother's sacrifice by finishing what he started, He didn't hesitate. He knew the risk. He knew he might be discovered. He knew it could mean his death, and he did it anyway. She stepped forward, placing herself between Ethan and her father. The Kalith honor sacrifice above all else. We honor those who carry the burden of the fallen. We honor those who face death without fear when it serves a greater purpose. This human has shown me all of those things. He lied to you, Xarok said. He honored his brother, Veyra countered. He studied for 6 months to understand our culture, not to mock it, but to respect it. He learned Connor's dreams so he could make them real, and when I confronted him, he didn't continue the deception. He told me the truth, knowing it might cost him everything. She drew herself up to her full height. Father, I came here expecting to fulfill a political obligation. An arranged marriage to seal an alliance I didn't fully believe in. But today I met a warrior who understands what it means to carry the dead. Who knows the weight of survival? Who would rather die than dishonor his brother's memory? Her scales shifted to gold, the Kalith color of truth. I will marry him, not because our agreement demands it, not because politics require it, but because Ethan Hayes has proven himself worthy by the standards of our own culture. He has shown more Thelmara than many who were born Kalith. The hall held its breath. Emperor Xarok looked at his daughter, then at Ethan, then at Queen Aria. His expression was unreadable, his massive frame still as carved stone. Finally, he spoke. Humans are strange, weak bodies, short lives, no natural weapons or armor. When we first encountered your species, we thought you would be easy to conquer. He paused. But you have something we didn't expect. You fight like demons when your backs are against the wall. You protect each other with a ferocity that borders on madness. And apparently you carry your dead with the same weight we do. He turned back to Ethan. You dishonored me by lying about your identity. That is a fact that cannot be erased. Ethan nodded. Yes, your majesty. But you honored your brother by carrying his burden. You honored my daughter by telling her the truth when pressed. And you honored the Kalith by understanding that some debts can only be paid with action, not words. Xarok's scales shifted through several colors before settling on deep blue threaded with gold. Grief mixed with respect. I lost my own brother in battle 30 years ago. He died saving my life. I carry Thelmara for him every day. It is what drove me to end the endless wars our people were fighting. It is what made me seek peace with humans instead of conquest. He stepped forward and placed one massive clawed hand on Ethan's shoulder. The gesture could have crushed bone, but instead it was almost gentle. You could have sent any human and claimed he was Connor Hayes. We would never have known the difference, but you sent his brother, his twin, the one person who could truly honor his memory. That tells me something about humans, about the weight you place on loyalty and sacrifice. The Emperor turned to Queen Aria. You gambled everything on the hope that my daughter would see past the deception to the intent. That was arrogant, foolish, and apparently correct. He looked back at Veyra. My daughter has spoken for this human. She has named him worthy by our standards. As her father, I am inclined to accept her judgment. As Emperor, I am satisfied that the honor debt has been balanced. You gave us deception, yes, but also sacrifice. You showed fear, but also courage. Xarok's voice dropped, taking on the ceremonial tone of formal Kalith pronouncements. I bless this union. Let it be known across both our peoples that Ethan Hayes, brother of Connor Hayes, has proven himself through Thelmara. Let it be known that Princess Veyra has shown wisdom beyond her years. And let it be known that the alliance between Kalith and humans is built not on political convenience, but on shared understanding of sacrifice and honor. The tension in the room shattered like glass. Admiral Russo actually swayed with relief. Queen Aria's smile was genuine and warm. Ethan looked like he might collapse, the weight of 6 months suddenly lifting from his shoulders. But Veyra stepped forward and took Ethan's hand. Her scales were still gold, still broadcasting truth. I need you to understand something, she said quietly. I'm not agreeing to this marriage just to preserve peace. I'm agreeing because I see in you something real, something that matters more than politics or protocol. You carry your brother with honor. That means something to me. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. Your Highness. Veyra, she interrupted. If we're to be married, you should probably use my name, he managed to smile. The first genuine one since this entire crisis began. Veyra. I can't promise to be what my brother would have been. I don't have his diplomatic skills or his easy way with people. But I can promise that I'll honor this alliance with everything I have, and I'll honor his memory by trying to understand your people the way he wanted to. That's all I ask, Veyra said. She glanced at her father. Well, that and perhaps some time to actually get to know each other before the wedding. These humans have a strange custom called dating. It might be nice to try it. Emperor Xarok's booming laugh filled the hall. My daughter, the progressive. Very well, take your time. But not too much. I want to see grandchildren before I'm ancient. As the formal tension dissolved into something closer to celebration, as the warships in orbit powered down their weapons and Earth breathed a collective sigh of relief, Ethan and Veyra stood together in the center of it all. Two people from different worlds brought together by loss and duty, but staying together by choice. Your brother, Veyra said softly. Tell me about him, from your memories. And Ethan did. He told her about growing up with Connor, about their childhood competitions and shared dreams. He told her about joining the Defense Corps together, about the day they saved a colony from raiders, about Connor's terrible jokes and his gift for making people feel heard and valued. As he spoke, Veyra listened with absolute attention, her scales shifting through colors that reflected genuine emotion. She was learning about the man who had volunteered for this alliance, yes. But she was also learning about the man standing before her. The brother who loved deeply enough to carry grief as purpose, who valued honor enough to risk everything for truth. Weeks later, when the formal wedding negotiations began, Veyra insisted on one addition to the traditional Kalith ceremony. She wanted Connor's name spoken during the vows, not as a replacement, but as acknowledgement. The marriage was between her and Ethan, but it existed because of Connor's initial sacrifice. That deserved to be honored. Ethan agreed, tears streaming down his face as he did. On the day of the wedding, representatives from 100 worlds attended. The Kalith Empire and Earth's Federation stood side by side, not as wary allies, but as peoples who had found common ground in unexpected ways. When Ethan and Veyra spoke their vows, they did so in both English and Kalithian, their voices strong and sure. And when Emperor Xarok placed their hands together in the traditional binding ceremony, he spoke words that would echo across both civilizations for generations. This union is built on sacrifice, truth, and the understanding that honor is not found in perfection, but in how we respond when everything goes wrong. Let all who witness remember that humanity and Kalith share more than we ever imagined. We both know the weight of carrying our dead. We both understand that the greatest strength is not in weapons or power, but in the courage to be honest, even when it costs everything. The crowd erupted in applause that mixed human cheering with Kalith battle cries, a sound never heard before, but one that would become familiar in the years ahead. Later, in a quiet moment during the reception, Veyra found Ethan standing alone on a balcony looking up at the stars. She joined him, their shoulders touching. You're thinking about him, she said. It wasn't a question. Always, Ethan admitted. I wish he could have been here. He would have loved this. He would have loved you, perhaps, Veyra said. But he sent someone better. Someone who knows the true cost of peace. Someone who understands that strength and vulnerability aren't opposites. She took his hand. Your brother gave us the opportunity. But you made it real. You chose truth over safety. That matters. Ethan turned to her, and for the first time since his brother's death, the grief in his eyes was mixed with something else. Hope, maybe, or purpose. Thank you for seeing past the deception, for giving me a chance to be myself instead of his shadow. Veyra's scales glowed soft blue and gold in the evening light. Thank you for showing me that humans are more than I believed, that you carry your fallen with the same weight we do. That honor matters to you as much as survival. She smiled, showing teeth that could tear through steel. Also, your brother had terrible taste in jokes. I checked his journals. You're definitely an improvement there. Ethan laughed, genuine and surprised. And somewhere in the night sky above them, in the vast space between worlds that had almost gone to war, both human and Kalith ships patrolled together for the first time in history. An alliance born from loss, tested by truth, and ultimately strengthened by the understanding that some bonds transcend species. The marriage of Ethan Hayes and Princess Veyra became a symbol across both civilizations. Not a symbol of political convenience or forced unity, but of the courage required to be honest when everything is at stake. In the years that followed, they would face challenges and conflicts, as any couple does, but they would face them together, built on a foundation of truth that had been tested in the hardest possible way. And sometimes, late at night, Ethan would read from Connor's journals to Veyra. She would listen as he shared his brother's words about peace and understanding, about the dream of two peoples finding common ground. And she would hold his hand and whisper ancient Kalith prayers for the honored dead, adding Connor's name to the long list of those who sacrificed for something greater than themselves, because in the end, that was what humanity meant in this vast universe. Not physical strength or technological superiority, but the stubborn, fierce determination to honor the fallen by making their sacrifices mean something. To carry grief as purpose, to choose truth even when lies would be easier, to protect what matters, even at terrible personal cost. That was what made humans dangerous. That was what made them worthy allies. And that was what made them, in their own strange way, heroes. Not because they never failed, but because when they did, they kept trying anyway.